Hello and welcome back to the Bobskis Podcast. Today we have a special episode. We have a debate today. Uh, this is your host Tahir, and I am joined by Abhiram.
Yo, yes.
And from the Mentorpad Podcast, we have a special guest, Rebin.
Yeah.
And my co-moderator today is Afif.
Yo, hello.
And let's get this started. For the topic of this debate, we have taken is the Joker overrated? And can I know who's for and against this topic before we go
I
ahead?
am against it, but yeah, I'm pretty much unprepared for this. I'll say that, and yeah, I'm against the. Yeah, I don't think Joker's overrated.
And
No, I don't
that
think
means Abhiram.
Yeah.
I mean, if you say it like that, it makes me sound like a douchebag. But I'll explain what I think. Okay.
That means Abhiram thinks the Joker is overrated.
No. I want to preface one thing. I do like the movie. I don't hate the movie.
You
Please
just think
don't kill
it's
me.
You just think it's overrated. Like it doesn't deserve.
I'll explain what that means. It's not.
Okay.
It's probably not what people think.
Okay.
Well, I hope you both are ready because I want a nice, clean debate.
I'm just improvising on the way.
Yeah,
Just
me
try-
too. I just watch the movies. That's it.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go for it.
Okay.
Okay, so the way a debate works is I'll flip a coin and you guys can decide who goes first. So, who's calling it?
I'll go with heads.
That leaves me with tails.
And it's tails.
Okay.
Okay. Nice. Okay.
So, Abhiram, what are you gonna decide?
I'll actually let Rebin begin this one.
Oh fuck. Okay. So I'm guessing it's. What I felt is this movie is like a game changer for me. Like for like the last couple of years, all the movies I've seen is I haven't seen a supervillain movie as deep and as insightful as Joker, because there's a lot of stuff that that's closely related to the comics. I read the comics a lot, and I felt like what I liked about Joker the most is his character is not that easily explained, and it's really hard to make an origin story out of a character like Joker. So what they have done in this movie is they made it, they've done justice to Joker's character throughout this movie. I mean, that's what I felt like. You can really see someone like Joker come out from situations that happened in the movie for Joker, and it did well as a supervillain movie, and as well as a very good psychological kind of a movie as well, like a normal as fucking movie rather than a superhero movie. In both the terms, it did really well. That's what I felt. And yeah, now I think Abhiram can talk. I don't have much. I haven't prepared much on this. This is what I felt so far.
Yeah, as far as it being different and shit, yeah, it is. No doubt. Like in the current landscape of superhero movies, definitely the Joker is more like an art house indie movie or whatever. But the question is whether it is a good representation of that form of storytelling. It's definitely trying to, it definitely has influences from old Scorsese movies. Two movies in particular, Taxi Driver and Game of Comedy. That both the director has come out and said this. So now the question is whether it is a good. Is it as good as what is influenced from? So I feel like the elements that the Joker, like the elements that it borrows from these movies, I don't think it does nearly as good as those movies. And my issues are like, I will agree, it does have really good things in it, no doubt about that. But I feel like there are some issues that are prevalent in the storytelling of the Joker, and that's where my main issue lies. So that's my whole thing.
Okay, so like what he said, yeah, it's influenced by Scorsese movies. And dude, I'm like a huge fan of Taxi Driver. That's like one of my favorite movies all time. And again, Joker is obviously copied from the Taxi Driver, but I don't mind if movies copy from the Taxi Driver, because Taxi Driver has set such a good standard of what a good movie is, and Joker being copied from that, like making a character like Joker from a theme like from the Taxi Driver, that's pretty fucking cool for me. and that I felt this, and the two movies had similar themes, and they both did really well in those aspects to explain our characters, a mental breakdown of a character, properly explained in both these movies. That's what I felt.
Okay, so as far as the Taxi Driver influence, that's cool and all, but I prefer that if a movie is borrowing elements from different movies, right? I would still like for it to have something different to say. Like it may have the same plot of Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy. It's something that's meshed together from both those movies for sure. But does it have something new to say? That's my question. That's what I want to find out. Do you think it has something new to say?
But it's different from Taxi Driver, right? Because in Taxi Driver, he doesn't completely spiral into insanity. He reaches a point where he gets a chance to be sane again.
Yeah, redemption. Yeah,
he gets a chance.
There's a redemption angle there.
And in Joker, that doesn't happen. Joker, bad shit just keeps happening to him, and then he spirals. I think it's different in that way, though. You see a person actually getting insane.
I guess that's my one issue with the movie, in the fact that it's very surface level shit. Like it's just bad shit happening to him. There's no further things below that. Like in the start of the movie, he's just getting kicked by different people, and then he gets fired from his job, and then everyone is just shitty to him. There's not even a single ounce of goodness in this movie. That's
what he felt was bad about it.
I felt it was surface level. There wasn't any depth to it. It's just all surface level shit. It's just bad shit happening to him, and it's I would have liked a little bit more nuanced, at least some kind of positivity or something to balance that, and then some variety. It's just bad shit happening to him. I mean, I don't mind.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, sure.
How would you compare the Joker to the Taxi Driver movie?
Oh, okay. For as far as Taxi Driver goes, the whole in that movie, it's more about everyone is shitty, the world is shitty, and then the main character wants to erase the shittiness. So it's that kind of a theme, that movie. And obviously there are moments some moments where in Taxi Driver there's a moment where he's pointing the gun to his head or whatever, and then in the Joker you have the same thing. This visual symbolism and shit like that. Not so much is taken from Taxi Driver. I found more similarities with King of Comedy more than Taxi Driver. In King of Comedy you have the main plot of this stand-up comic trying to be, he's trying to get fame or whatever, trying to get big, and he idolizes a famous talk show host. So that's pretty much more seen in the Joker movie. So that's what I'm saying. They're just elements taken from, and plus in King of Comedy you have the whole delusion element. The main character sees, he sees himself in scenarios that are clearly in his head, which is also used in Joker. So that's where my similarities. That's what I think were drawn from
Abhiram,
those two movies.
What do you think Joker copied from Kings of Comedy and this thing and Taxi Driver? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, but then the people who are making this movie have come out and said that it's influence from.
Yeah, it's influence. It's influence. But again, I felt like it was intentional. People need all. I think before the movie was marketed, they said this is directly influenced from Taxi Driver, because the time of the movie was up in the same time frame as what happens the events in Taxi Driver,
I'm saying that too.
Right?
No, my question is whether it does anything different than new that's not in those movies.
But I felt like Joker was very different from Taxi Driver. I understood how it was influenced though, but the movies are very different. Because in Joker there was a mother and a mom in the movie, right? But in the Taxi Driver he's all alone all the time.
No, but in King of Comedy there's a mother too. Yeah. He lives with his mother alone, so it's borrowed from that.
It's borrowed from that as well. Okay, I haven't watched King of Comedy.
You should have probably watched that.
I felt like I should have watched that as well.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. There's more comparison with King of Comedy more than Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver is more some things are taken, but most shit is taken from King of Comedy. For example, another big thing is a not so subtle thing that they took from King of Comedy. In the King of Comedy movie, De Niro is the delusional guy who's going after the talk show host, but in Joker, De Niro is the talk show host. But my problem is that I feel like this movie doesn't really do anything new. Sure, like it's like as a whole, the idea of a Joker movie is very different. It's like it's very different from the current set of movies that we see. That's for sure. But even then, if you remove the name Joker from this movie, do you think this movie would be given as big as a shit that it is right now?
Yeah, that's what I said in the starting. Even if this they didn't market this as a Joker movie, it would have
I
still
don't
done
know
well.
about that. I
Because
feel
what I felt is
no.
yeah, it wouldn't have done as good as this, but I still think it would have been an Academy Award-winning movie. That's what I still feel. Because the acting was insane, the camera was insane, and everything about the movie, the set design, everything.
Yeah.
was
Oh,
on point
with those
for me.
with those things that you said, the camera, the set design,
Yeah.
the acting, all that's great. I'm calling out the story.
The story also, bro. I don't get it. Like I find the story. What's
Okay,
wrong
my
with the
issue
story?
with the story is that it's very surface level. There's no depth to it. It's just basic, like it's just, it doesn't really add anything new, like I said before. Like for example, the whole, okay, this is one problem I have with the movie, like the whole delusion concept, right?
Hmm.
Now I don't know about you, but when I was watching the movie, it was so predictable that his girlfriend was a delusion. I don't know if it.
Yeah, that even I
Yeah.
felt.
Yeah,
There was
that's
delusion.
what. Yeah, that's what. So that same element, right? It's present in King of Comedy, but in King of Comedy, it's done in a way more subtle manner. But in Joker, it's all like spoon-fed to you, and it's very easy to tell what is real and what is not. So, for example, like when he finds out that the girlfriend is not real, right? When he walks into that apartment, what she says is that, oh, your name is Arthur, right? So when she says that, that's when the audience realizes, oh, this is all like everything we seen till now was like fake, right? But then they proceed to show like flashback sequences like in a very spoon-feeding manner, which I didn't like. I felt like they could have gone, for example, that element, they could have gone in a more subtle manner. Like they didn't have to like, I feel like the elements that they choose to tell the story, they did it in a very basic manner.
Yeah, I felt that was a weak part of the movie as well. That specific portion, it didn't really. But other than that, I'll tell you one thing: the scene where he shoots those two people in the subway, and then he does that dance, right?
Yeah,
In the bathroom. For me, that scene was insane. I've never seen such a good scene in a movie for a long time. It was put out so
I
well.
I feel the opposite. I didn't understand what the whole dancing what that dancing thing symbolized. I didn't quite get that because
That's when he finally learned that he could be free with himself, free with his body, and finally reach that point where he's completely insane. That's what I got.
yeah, sure,
from the movie. And for me that was
yeah,
such
that's
a
what
good
even
scene.
I thought
Yeah.
too. Then I went to then I thought, oh, okay, so that's something that's probably present in the script. And then I read the script and I was like, oh, that thing is not in the script.
What?
That thing was
What is on the
the
script?
dance. It
The
was
dance?
improvised.
What? Are you serious?
Oh,
Yeah.
improvised.
Yeah, that.
I did not
But it's
know that.
crazy. I love that scene. I love that scene. And the scene where he goes down the steps in the last. Oh,
I agree. I
beautiful.
agree with that.
Fucking
There are
beautiful.
some certain symbolistic, that's not a word.
Could be a word.
Symbolism elements that, let's make it a word then. Okay. No, but like the steps aspect, like in the beginning of the movie, he's climbing the steps. It's all moody and sad and all that shit. And then after he kills those two people, whenever you see him using the steps, he's going down. So I found that cool. That's a cool little thing that they did with the whole steps thing. And then, but then even then,
the colors
Abhiram,
used in the
sorry,
movie.
to
yeah,
It was really
Abhiram,
good.
you
Really
told-
nice to look
You
at.
told me that when you watched the movie again, it was boring, right?
Yeah.
That's yeah. Okay, so but you said the Taxi Driver wasn't boring when you watched it again.
yeah, I felt it was dull.
So why, like, can you? What's the difference?
Yeah. I think the main reason for that is I feel like in Joker, with the exception of minus the exception of Arthur, all the other characters are one-dimensional as fuck. Like there's nothing to them. I think in Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, you have like all the characters in those movies, right? They have like different layers to them, and their interaction with the main character is super interesting. Whereas in Joker, right? Let's take different examples to prove my point. For Arthur and his mother, what kind of interaction do they have? It's just basically his mother saying that he's not really funny, and they talk about his illness or whatever, and then they don't have that much of an interaction besides that, and then the setting up of the backstory and what she did to him and all that. Besides that, there's no real relationship there. That's one thing. And then him and his girlfriend character, who does she even have a name in the movie?
I mean, it's not important though. Like I didn't
Whatever.
feel it was.
See, that's my problem. Like, if you're trying to sell us the fact that at least they could make the whole idea that should it be the whole delusion aspect when it came to her became too obvious, because like whenever they had scenes together, she didn't talk at all, so it became too obvious that it was a delusion. Like if they had like a meaningful conversation, or she interacted, showed some kind of a personality, shared her dreams or whatever, she didn't do any of that in the movie, and that kind of like made it so easy to tell that it was a delusion.
Wasn't it the same
and
in Taxi Driver as well? Like the only person with not one-dimensional personality in the movie was the person he loved, like was falling in love with, the female in the movie, right? Other than that, there was no other significant characters in Taxi Driver as well. That's what I thought.
Oh, what about the prostitute teenager?
Yeah, basically the two women in that. Yeah, both of them. But then again, it's still centered around that one person. Both these movies, that's what I felt. You don't really give space for other characters in this. It's like it's always shown in the perspective of the
but then what about
of the main person. In this case, it's the guy and Joe.
Sure, but I feel like you can do that while also having good supporting characters. Like you can have a plot centered around.
But I
the
felt
main
like in
character
Taxi
and
Driver also it didn't really depend on the
characters
supporting characters. It felt on it was so centered on Robert De Niro's character in that movie.
But then with Joker, right? With the Joker, it's a character that whose whole, the whole setting up of the formation of the Joker, right? It all depends on how he interacts with people and what they do to him, right?
Yeah, that is there. But then again,
Yeah.
What about Thomas Wayne in the film? Do you think he was one-dimensional as well in his role?
I found him. Okay, this is my thing. Like, if you take the movie on its own, right, without any context to who Thomas Wayne is, then that character is one-dimensional. But if you know Thomas Wayne from the other movies and from the comics, this iteration is more interesting, because in the other iterations he's portrayed as a very good guy, billionaire type character, but in this movie he's more of a half brick, half good intention type.
Yeah, he's a bit more a darker side of Thomas Wayne. A bit.
Only a bit?
A bit.
Only a bit?
Yep, a bit. Okay, so do you think Thomas Wayne is a bit altered from the comics, and that might have ruined the
but I didn't really mind
movie?
Yeah, because I used to follow the comics a lot. Not like the comics. I used to read graphic novels of Batman and stuff. For me, I didn't really mind that the movie made a lot of alterations to the original comics. It still did a pretty good job of telling a decent origin story for Joker. That's what I felt.
Okay, so like, how would you
now,
compare this movie to the one that was in the comics, one animated
The Dark
series?
Knight movies.
No,
See, again, in Dark Knight,
the one animated series, one where they had the original Joker story from.
The Killing Joke.
Yeah.
The Killing Joke. I've read the comics of The Killing Joke, and that had a very interesting story as well. In that, it's basically how Joker was. And that had a really fucked up story, you could say, because that a lot more shit happened to him in this origin story than it did in this one. But in this one, it's more dependent on childhood trauma, like this Joker. What happened to him in childhood is what made him insane. But in the Killing Joke comic, it's different. It's what happens to him when he becomes like, it happens. He has a wife also in that, so people kill his wife also in that. So he goes into this really fucked up state. He was actually happy
Sorry, spoiler alerts for
Yeah,
The Killing
yeah.
Joke. Those who have not read
I
it,
don't
I'm so
think a lot of
sorry.
people- yeah. So that's what happens in the comics. So this happens to him in a later stage of his life. It's not like a childhood kind of a thing, but in this movie, it's more of what happens to him and his childhood, and the fucked up relationship his mom had with the boyfriend. All that stuff is what affected him to be the crazy individual that he is in the movie. You can kind of empathize with him in this movie. That's what I felt. Like why he's gone into that, because normally in the books it's shown as he's fallen into this tub of chemicals and stuff, and that's what creates Joker. But in this movie they had a much better explanation that you could more empathize with, and also not be like it doesn't sound outlandish. That's what I felt.
Okay, then my question is, okay, what characteristics make up the Joker?
He's random as fuck. That's what I feel. You can't predict his personality. You
Okay. Would you say he's very
Yes, he's
intelligent and competent?
Plus, but he's always living in the moment. He doesn't really care about the consequences of what he does.
Do you think this Joker would be competent enough to go
No,
head
he
on head
wouldn't,
with
but
the Batman?
time, if you gave him enough time, I think he would. Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Because in the end,
That's
you
my
see
question.
him draw that smile on his face, right? That's when he realizes this is what he wants to do.
Yeah,
That's when he realizes he's finally happy.
in my opinion, the movie should have ended there.
It
In my
did end
opinion,
there,
the movie
right?
should have ended there because the movie starts off with him.
Look,
No, it didn't. There
just-
was one extra scene
just
with him
one
in
extra
Arkham.
scene, that's it. But I don't think that really ruined that scene in the end with the smile on his face.
I didn't quite
I
get
felt the
that
ending was
though.
unnecessary.
Like,
The movie should have ended
what
there.
is he?
Like you, I agree with you on that. But yeah,
yeah, because like in the beginning of the movie, he's trying to form a smile, and then by the end, he gets a smile. It's
Mhm.
like the perfect bookend ending kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I felt like, yeah. And then there are people online who like for all the like if anyone points out like problems they have with the movie, right? Then the first thing that they say is, "Oh, it's probably all in his head." I hate that about this movie. I hate that whole notion that people can easily say, "Oh, if there's anything wrong with the movie, they can use that it's all in his head, or that thing was a dream," as an excuse.
yeah, I get what
That-
you're saying, but what I
Yeah,
feel is when you make a really
that's-
good movie, you always leave it to the audience to decide, right? That's what I feel. That's what makes a good movie. There are some movies that do really good storytelling. There are some movies that has these loose ends that you have to somehow figure out how the movie works. I like those kind of movies as well. I think Joker was one of those movies where you had to like slowly think what happens. Yeah, leave the end. Yeah, that's also kind of cool.
So you don't like movies that have a very ambiguous ending?
Oh, with the ambiguous ending? No, I do like that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like movies that rely only on that, I don't like. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not completely, but the whole delusion thing was a major element that I feel like they didn't do well enough. That's my thing. I mean, opinions can change on that, but like I said, with that one example of the girlfriend character, and then like I don't know, just the way they presented the whole delusion thing, I felt like it was very on the nose, very easy to tell. Like for example, there are people saying that everything. Remember that part where he goes into the fridge?
That's just a theory, dude. I've heard that theory before, but I don't think that has any.
Yeah, so there are people
It's a
out there
theory.
saying that everything after the
It's a
fridge
dumbass theory,
is a
yeah.
dream. I don't.
That's just obviously
Yeah,
that's
but-
not what the
yeah,
director
but then
meant.
that's
It's just
a-
on dumbass.
Yeah,
who
that's
just
such a
voted
dumbass theory
people,
because
agree with it. That's not what he meant. I don't think he would
Yeah, like,
really work
that's-
this hard just to fucking say that he dreamed all the shit in the fridge. That's definitely not what happened. Don't believe those people. What?
yeah, and then there are people saying the whole movie is a dream. So I don't know. I don't like that.
Since there have been like so many interpretations of the Joker, I would like you both to stack up your like versions of Joker and like which one's best, and is this one the best Joker interpretation that you've seen on cinema?
Ooh.
Like compare
You
the
can
movies.
compare
or
the
like-
movies, you can compare
Compare
the surrounding
everything.
of the character, you can compare the character as well, or you can compare the actor as well.
Okay.
There shouldn't be any
Okay.
bias, okay? Like,
Wait. Question. Are you saying only live action or are you including
I'm
everything?
including everything. I'll let you guys go for Mark Hamill as well, his voice. Because the voice is a character
Fuck
as well.
that
So,
stuff. Okay.
you can't put that out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we both can agree that Jared Leto was pretty fucking shit, right?
Who? Who's that? I don't know who that is. I don't know who that person is.
Jared Leto in Suicide Squad, the Joker.
Mate, that's the joke. I don't know who that is. That's the entire joke.
Okay, fuck.
He is
Okay.
irrelevant.
I thought you legit didn't know.
That
But dude, that was such a bad job, dude. Like, oh fuck. How can you fuck that up so bad?
it's a combination of
It was
people
really
who
bad.
didn't understand the character and a person who did not know the character.
Exactly. What the fuck? This dude was driving a Lambo and he had a proper suit on, with proper hair and tattoos. Why the fuck would the Joker do that? That's not the fucking Joker.
He
He looked like a fucking.
he had damage tattooed on his forehead. That's enough for me.
It's so fucking corny, man.
Okay, let's
I don't
move on
get
to the next Joker because enough of Jared Leto hate.
Okay.
Irrelevant.
Okay. Irrelevant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are we talking about? Yeah, the Joker. I'll start with my favorite interpretation of Joker. I think it's still Heath Ledger for me, because what I felt is, when I look at that character, I don't see Heath Ledger. I just fucking see the Joker. You can't see the actor bit behind that character, because he's done it so well, and Joker is known for being ambiguous, and he's pulled that off so well. Whereas Joaquin Phoenix has done you can't really judge those two so as with the current movies, because in the Joker you don't actually see the Joker. You only see it in the last part where he gets into that insane phase. He hasn't really acted out that character that much. So I would say, as so far, it's always been Heath Ledger for me. Let's see in the future if that might change. I want it to change as well. I don't want Heath Ledger to keep like such a huge standard for being being the Joker. But it's a really hard role to pull off. He's done that really well. That's what I feel.
For me, unlike most people, I don't really have a bias towards any, I don't really, the Joker is not really one of my favorite characters or anything, but I like him as a character, but, it's not one of my favorite characters that I completely, I'm obsessed with or anything, so I don't have any preconceived bias towards Heath Ledger or Mark Hamill or what's the other guy, Jack Nicholson or anyone like that. But if I had to pick one, then obviously it has to be Heath Ledger, because come on, he was in the best movie and then he had the best he had the best performance. His character was written the best. His character had the more memorable lines. I cannot remember many, as much as I love Joaquin Phoenix's performance, I can't really remember many lines of his other than the really memeable lines that everyone is memeing. But yeah, that's basically it. And then you have to give kudos to Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill is the animated and games Joker. That's pretty much all him. So yeah, Mark Hamill and Heath Ledger. I mean, and Jack Nicholson, right? For his time, he was amazing.
Yeah, he did a really good job. Yeah, he did a really good job. Yeah, not gonna lie.
It's
I mean,
just
that guy's known for
such
playing
a shame
psychos,
that
so,
yeah. It's just a shame that he's overshadowed by Heath Ledger, because
Heath Ledger,
so,
I don't know, he really pulled it off, dude. I don't think it's really hard to reach that level of Heath Ledger, because I think he really went insane after that role, right? He lost a bit. People say that, but I can actually believe that he went insane after that role, because he's done such a good job.
I mean, this was
that character.
this was the thing, Heath Ledger and Jared Leto, right? Both of them are method actors, and both of them method acted for the Joker. But Heath Ledger, he was more into the idea of understanding the Joker's psychology, so he locked himself in a room. He talked to himself, did some mannerisms and try to be the character in that way. And Jared Leto's idea of method acting was sending condoms to his castmates. So you can...
Did he actually do that?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah, he
so
did.
ridiculous.
Yeah, he did that. He sent dead rats, condoms. Yeah, that's...
actually weird.
Yeah, that was his. See that itself tells you that in his head he thought the Joker was a prankster or some shitty YouTube prankster. That's what he thought the Joker was. He thought he was Fuzzy Tube.
Because this is an origin story, did this sort of ruin the movie in any aspect at all? Because this is a character that no one knows anything about. So the writers had a lot of freedom of altering the universe, changing stuff, So does this in any way ruin the movie or make the movie in your case? So I want you both to discuss on this.
Do you mean like have it being an origin story?
Having it being an origin story and pretty much an original story. Like it wasn't like like no one knows this. This isn't the real origin story of the Joker. This is a made up story of the Joker, right? Like you can't put this in the comic book. You can't put this in the comic book universe. It doesn't gel with it. So how would you does this?
Yeah, it's an Elseworld thing.
Does this fact make it the movie or ruin the movie? Like discuss.
When it comes to I guess when you ask that question, I have to go and talk about adaptations. So when you adapt a character, I don't care what kind of a story the character is in. You can make your own original story, whatever. All I care about is that the heart of what made the character great in the original source material is there in the movie. That's all I care about. And I guess that was one issue. For me, Joker is chaotic. He's rebellious, he's random, he's intelligent, cunning, he's all those things, right? Most of those things came in the last 20 minutes of the movie. And of course this is by no means a purely Joker movie. No, it's an origin story for sure. But the whole aspect of him having multiple, his origin is supposed to be multiple choice, so that's how it was portrayed in the comics. Even though in the Killing Joke, right, they portrayed one character and him going through shit and all that, but even then it was presented that in a manner where it could have been in a multiple choice, because after that origin is shown in the comics, the Joker says, that's how I remember the events one day, and in another day I remember the events in another way, leading us, the viewer, to believe that he's still not a very good reliable narrator or anything like that. So I wish more of that aspect was in the Joker movie. So I guess that kind of bummed me out a little bit. It was pretty much a straightforward origin story. Even with the delusional aspect, there are aspects of the movie where you can't really say it was an illusion or all in his head, because that wouldn't make sense. So I don't know, I was kind of disappointed, but there are aspects I really liked about the movie. So yeah, for example, the cinematography, the acting, the overall color grading, all that shit.
So what I felt like when I went for the movie, I was expecting a proper him turning into the villain in the movie, but that didn't happen. The whole movie was basically his origin story. So I expected something and I went and I got something else. But I wasn't disappointed with what I got as well. I got a really good origin story for a villain. So that's what I felt. What I felt like the only thing about the movie that was lacking is the Joker is known to be really intelligent, right? And that wasn't explored much in the movie. So you can't really predict this Joker to be a smart villain in the future, like someone who's really smart who will plot against the Batman and stuff. That's what I felt. So in that way, it kind of disappointed me as an origin story, but as a movie, it really did wonders for me. Because as a normal, I felt like this could pull off an Academy Award. The acting performances, how the story was kept, but it wasn't a good superhero universe movie. That's what I felt. Yeah, it did. I really figured it would win something for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt he deserved the award.
Like I said, it's not a good superhero movie like a superhero universe kind of a movie in my opinion, but it's such a good standalone, separate kind of a movie. That's what I felt.
You said standalone movie, right? But then they were making these connections to a greater universe with Batman and all that. Did that bother you, or did it gel perfectly for you?
that didn't. I don't think they made really hard reference. Only that kid Bruce Wayne scene was there, but I felt like that was such a it didn't really matter for me that Easter egg or something was there. Like it didn't really ruin the story. It still it still was on the right track even when those references were there. So it didn't really matter for me.
While that whole aspect wasn't a problem for me, there were some people saying that the whole Bruce Wayne connection and the Thomas Wayne connection, that story arc was kind of pointless, so it didn't really need to be there or whatever. So I was just asking if you felt something like that.
The thing is, they wanted to make a really good movie and they needed to sell it to large audiences. I think that's why they went with Joker.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
The story, like
No. My question is, how the movie has connections to, like they connect him to Thomas Wayne,
to Bruce Wayne.
and then they show the Bruce Wayne shit. So did that, but that's such a small element of a greater story in the movie, right? So did the inclusion of the whole
small element? I mean,
yes,
it's not really a small element. Like, he thinks Bruce Wayne is his dad, and that
not Bruce Wayne,
fucks him over.
Thomas Wayne.
Sorry, not Bruce Wayne. I'm sorry, Thomas Wayne.
Hey, that would be crazy.
Yeah, that really fucks him over to the point where he loses his shit. That's when I think one of the main breaking points in his head, right? He finds out this guy's not his dad. And he's
No, because like there were some people online who were saying that the whole death scene, at the end with his parents being murdered by a random guy influenced by the Joker, all that shit felt kind of forced or whatever. I don't know. It didn't bother me, but I can see where they're coming from too.
Final question for the day. It's not related to the debate. It's just a random question that I want to ask both of you. Who would you like? Do you think Joaquin should go on doing the film, the character Joker, or who would you like to see cast as the Joker in the next movie, if there is one?
So what I feel is I don't think Joaquin has done his best in this movie. I felt like I think we should move on, explore more elements of this character. Like I feel like someone like Johnny Depp would do a really good job. Johnny Depp was perfect because he's done those characters like Pirates of the Caribbean. He's done those really eccentric kind of a character.
True.
I think he would do a really good job.
I can imagine
Joker as well. Johnny Depp could pull it off.
Oh yeah, I was so when I had this idea, I was thinking like it depends on what type of a Joker I wanted to see. If I want to go for a like old man Joker type thing, right, like a Dark Knight Returns version, fuck it, let's go for Willem Dafoe. Why the fuck not? Yeah.
William Dafoe. Yeah.
Yeah, and lately
You do a good job.
he's been killing it, especially with The Lighthouse, which he should have been nominated for. If we were going for a younger like Joker who's in his 30s or 40s, then why not go for Jake Gyllenhaal?
Jake Gyllenhaal.
True. That is my first. That's the first guy I picked in my head.
Okay, so both have proven your points. Like the conversation, very in depth. Got a lot to know about like stuff that I didn't know about the movies, about the Joker character. In the end, you can't just announce a winner, But it was a good debate nonetheless. We both had very valid points. I don't know. We'll let fucking the audience decide, I guess. Thanks for watching, and please listen to us on Spotify, Castbox, iTunes, and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Peace.
Okay, so whoever is listening, please subscribe to the Mentorpad Podcast on Spotify. We interview individuals who are respected in their fields and love what they're doing and get to know how they got there. So please subscribe to the Mentorpad Podcast.